welcome to the Citizens Chat Show. Today we are discussing 2026, the road to. Currently we are already on the highway, of course, with some heated moments. One of them being what is going on today, as Doolo decides the replacement for Honorable Cecilia Ogwal. Shall be delving into that, but also other issues that we have to consider, including the state of political parties. We see a lot of turbulence across board. We have other issues regarding the state of the citizenry, the state of parliament itself, among other developments that we see currently in our political scene that will all make meaning and will all play a part in how we decide in 2026 and the governance of our country from there onwards. Joining me today are my esteemed guests who have, of course, shown their capacity to break down these issues for our dear citizens, and starting with the gentleman on the far right, Mr. Ochieno Joseph, a member of the Uganda People's Congress, but also a media personality. You're most welcome.
Good to be here. A long time seeing you. Where have you been?
On ground.
On the ground.
or in the trenches.
Good to see you, young man.
Good to see you.
You're doing a fantastic job.
You're most welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Yeah.
And we have our dear guest today, Mr. Muguzi Henry, who is the Executive Director, Alliance for Finance Monitoring. You're most welcome.
Thank you. It's an honor for me to be here.
Yes, it's good to have you back as well.
Looking forward to an interesting discussion.
Thank you very much. We also have Dr. Bireete Sarah, the Executive Director, Center for Constitutional Governance. You're most welcome.
Thank you, and glad to be here back on the show.
Yes, and we also have Dr. Ojambo Robert, who is the head of Faculty of History at Kyambogo University. You're most welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here. It's Department of History.
Department.
Yeah.
Thank you for that correction. Straight into Doolo. Doolo decides today. I hope after the show, maybe we'll get to know who took the day. But of course, front runner we have mainly the FDC candidate, who is the daughter of the late Honorable Alwatch Rosemary. We also have someone from your party, Honorable Aguti Sandra.
Yes.
Yes, and then of course we have the NRM candidate also participating, who actually came as a runner-up to the late in the last election. Mr. Ochieno, you've been on ground. What do you make of the circumstances? Of course, NRM actively invests in by-elections, but also unique circumstance, seeing that UPC Lao is a stronghold for the Uganda People's Congress, which happens to be your party. But also in the light of the previous election that we had to replace General. So what do you make of the current election coming from ground?
Yeah, to be fair, actually, up to 4 candidates. So we have to be generous to NUP. They have a candidate. Their leader was there amongst other parties. Yeah. But I mean, if you pick the 4, the NUP leader, you could see him making reasonable efforts to make their presence felt.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is that possibly if he went to attend any of the 4 rallies, in terms of compositions, it would be neither here nor there. It would be difficult to tell.
Yeah.
But quite clearly, I hope that, of course, the by-elections took place yesterday, Thursday, with claims of rigging, accusations and counter-accusations. And I think I don't know the latest in terms of outcomes, but I think UPC is quietly cautious that they may actually take the day for the reason, or in part you've said. Doolo happens to be a very interesting constituency, but before that, I came back from Doolo 2 days ago, and a very hot place. You can see me still sweating.
Yeah.
Very hot place.
So the heat has followed you here?
The heat has followed, but partly one of the reasons why I say that is because I saw the apparentness of poverty from Namasale across Amolata to Doolo. And you go through these villages and you wonder, why would anybody sing Nyongo Nyongo, no change NRA? Number 2, the environmental degradation linked to climate change, which at the moment globally in polity, I worry as somebody who observes beyond the boundaries and who looks at some of the trends. I was making a small contribution to a publication on elections this year that looks at America, looks at South Africa, looks at a number of other democracies, looks at the just recent outcome of by-elections of a resignation of Irish Prime Minister, some of the underlying issues. That the concerns about the political right, possibly re-emerging, in terms of extremes in global polity as we struggle with economic turnaround. But then when you come down to our Republic of Uganda, the scramble is sometimes is narrowed to simplicity about money, about rigging, about giving out money. So that concerns. But no, we as Ugandans should be very concerned. The heat waves in Kampala are not heat waves I saw when I was a high school or indeed an undergrad student or indeed a young graduate like yourself. I never saw it until possibly the last 10, 15 years. It was temperatures in Kampala were never hitting 30. The 30s were for Khartoum and beyond Juba, actually, Khartoum and maybe Addis and Cairo. So these are changes, things which are taking place. And I'm not boring you. I'm just telling you that these are very real things. And because they're real and because political leaders are immersed into focusing about self-interests. And of course, we will discuss further the issue of money and shillings playing around when real issues need to be tackled. It's important that Doolo should then be a reasonable litmus test. That said, Doolo was Lira South constituency in 1980. Lira South is now 2 districts. Now, I was privileged, that's not why I didn't go. I was privileged that Lira South was represented by my cousin, Teddy Odongo-Duka, who was the only female member of parliament and deputy minister for health. But Teddy was elected unopposed. She was unopposed because the place is so UPC that DP could not actually field the candidate. Unless the stories of West Nile where somebody arriving late accuses UPC. Simply DP did not field the candidate. But so in other words, my cousin defeated the one Ojok Leo in the primaries, and she was declared. What am I saying? Generally, this is a traditional UPC stronghold. And if I see what happened in Apache recently, there's every reason, including the experience that I had, that UPC should be able to win it. But of course, the terrain has generally changed. The terrain has changed. Part of Doolo includes where Okot is. Okot has had his mixed relations with the NRA, but he's a reasonably loud figure. In one of the rallies I attended, one of his nephews was there to formally endorse UPC, which was very, very interesting. And I saw a number of people cross into UPC from NRA, a number of people cross into UPC from FDC, and I personally recruited a number of people, including a very decent one in breakfast time before I came. Now, it was interesting that the day before yesterday, when Mr. Museveni went to Doolo, Mr. Museveni and you, the journalists, Mr. Museveni actually, a quarter of his speech was to reply to my radio interview for Amolata, and part of my contributions to a talk show the evening before, and one of my campaign rally issues, including referring to Doolo, Amolata, Namasale Road. And it was very interesting. Then he goes on to talk about you people in Lango. There was only one school before independence. Others came in much later. And then he suddenly realized he was beginning to create UPC. Then said, "Oh, now you have about 10." Now, forgetting about the 10 schools, most of them would have been so-called third world schools that would have been founded in the early 80s, and then of course interrupted by the NRA. If you look at the recent educational performance, Doolo was amongst the worst performers as outcomes. So if it were the case that it was about politics of issues, then UPC would win quite convincingly. But it's interesting that you see the number of people who still turn up for Mr. Museveni. Of course, they are incumbents. They candidate, I think, as Sarah said, all the particularly four female candidates are very good young, decent ladies, and really gives me hope, Sarah, to the future of this country in terms of a post-Museveni thing. We just need to find a formula to get that gives us an opportunity to push Museveni to compel him to go and retire in his dubious Rakitura. And then there are people in this country, possibly even away from my generation, who will be able to have the capacity to take this country forward. And some of those are Doolo candidates. Now, Rosemary, and I gave this as my message, that Rosemary, Cecilia's daughter, so just like her mother, we're decent people. The mother was decent, Rosemary was decent. I know Rosemary personally. I worked with Cecilia. But really, unfortunately, when it comes to this, it's about politics of issues. And actually, interestingly, in Lango, if you put away many of the other things, the issues polity will come. Particularly some of the campaigns and debates around the radio station, radio programs, you wouldn't possibly match my bouquet with them. So they're quite general advanced. So people have these conversations, and they're very interesting.
Yeah.
So maybe for that, it would be maybe a struggle for Rosemary. But as an individual, as a candidate, she's very articulate. In fact, should possibly the best amongst those. Forget about her PhD and include the fact that she's a very rounded lawyer who was rather robust, almost like her mother at the beginning.
Yeah.
But neither here nor there. UPC's track record, UPC candidate, fantastic, extremely amiable and very liked candidate.
Yeah, thank you very much. And of course, hopefully we'll know later what comes of the election. But I'd like to bring in our guest, Mr. Muguzi. Regarding the wider issue of by-elections, we see a trend of succession within families, or the entitlement that one must succeed. We saw it with after the death of the late Olanya. We saw it after the death of Mr. General, I don't know if it's General, but Honorable Charles Olaa. And now we see, of course, Rosemary Aluoch standing in for her mother, and clearly saying that Mom did not finish the work we do, or the work she was trying to do. What do you make of this trend within Ugandan by-elections?
Yeah, of course, thank you. You mentioned the history of successions. And as you were mentioning, I remembered that it started way back.
Yeah.
Because I remember the former minister, Sewunya, when he died in Nansana, the son took over. But does it only have to be the son? I think also sisters, siblings, because I remember when Nevanda died,
Yes.
it was the sister who came. So we have kind of entrenched a belief that these are positions that are ring-fenced in a way or the other by kin or kith. And then as we discussed it, that then my mind runs quickly to us as a people of Africa. I look at, I'm glad my friend here, historian, in our traditional political history, with the kings and the chiefs, where when the king died, the son took over, the chief died, the son took over. And then you ask yourself the question, have we transited from that?
Yeah.
You get to see we yet to do that. And then you ask yourself a question, how old is democracy, by the way? And when you look around, this is, at the time of colonialism, this is what we had. There was no democracy. The colonial master comes, all those 60 years, there was no democracy. The men and women that took the reins of power from the colonial masters did not exercise democracy. So democracy is that young. So having said that, then takes me to these by-elections. Of course, because democracy is so young, democratic virtues such as political tolerance are yet to be inculcated in the minds of the men and women in power. And therefore, we have seen a lack of tolerance for political parties. When by-election comes, that is the only time political parties have to go out and reach out to the electorate. So it provides an opportunity. Never mind whether they win or not, but at least they have this period when they can freely go out and reach the people. Away from by-elections and other elections, political parties then are compelled to go back to their headquarters. I don't know what the case is with the parties such as UPC and the DP, which seem to be, having some special relationship with the party in power. But the others, of course, will be restricted there. So I think by-election also provides us an opportunity to continue growing our democracy.
Yeah.
A lot of things don't go right. We remember the last election where the president himself comes out and says, "Oh, guys, you know what? This was ugly. Was Senator?
Bukedea.
Bukedea.
Yeah, LC5.
When they say, oh yeah, this was ugly.
Yeah.
So we expect to continue seeing these ugly scenes because I think it's a period we need to go through. The reason I'm mentioning this is that Uganda has tested both ends of the stick. We have tested war. We did not like it. We tested a little bit of democracy. Now we can tell that we would rather continue, changing leaders through elections rather than going down the path of the gun. So if that's what we have decided then as a citizen, right, then we need to understand that we need to go through these challenges as a system of democracy that is still growing. You expect this to be, you have in place a regime that is military in everything but name. Because for me, I don't think that the regime, and I want to agree with my brother, always mentions that. I don't think this regime has ever changed from being militaristic, has ever transformed itself. It remains militaristic. Because you cannot be a target today, a target on Tuesday, a target on Wednesday, then on Thursday you become a duck.
Yes.
This is a military regime. It has always been, it will continue to be. So under such a setting, then you would see that the space for democracy and political parties to operate is so constrained, and therefore by election, let's wait and see who wins.
Yes.
But I think it's an opportunity in the broader terms for political parties to take the chance to meet the people.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Muguzi. Oh, to you, Dr. Bireete. This is once again women's, of course, a women's MP race, and we saw the quality of candidates, I think, widely acknowledged as good, including, I think, in the other elections within Lao region. What can we do as a country to keep propagating such competition between persons who many people say, well, these are all meritable candidates? What can we do so that we have more of such scenarios instead of the kind of candidates that we have gotten used to in the more recent years?
Well, I watched the women candidates debate for Dokoro, and I know that's another pronunciation. I hope I'll be forgiven it. Just joke and tell her. No, the way it comes out is different.
You said Dokolo.
Yeah.
Okay, we allow you, Sarah. We allow you.
Dokolo.
Yeah, so I watched that debate and I was like, wow. All the 6 candidates that participated in that debate, I wish they could vie for more seats. Polished, focused, well-educated. We have some MPs in the House that can't even make a sentence or two. Very unfortunate. So for me, a third provision of women, of course, which is below the global threshold of gender parity, and we should demand for more through the reconstitution of Parliament to have 1 male and 1 female MPs per district, so that we attain automatic gender parity.
You are talking.
Yeah, and reduce the numbers so that the Parliament is manageable. Other than that provision, these women need to vie for more seats. Before we attain that gender parity, these women, I know the best one will win the race.
Yes.
The rest of the 5 should go for the other seats, because it's not that the general constituencies that are largely preserved of men, it's not that we always have quality in the candidates that we have in these constituencies, and such women shouldn't be limited to 1 or 2 seats in a district. They should venture out more. But on the issue of politics of succession, which has now more or less become the norm, it's important to note that this trend happens once in a while, also in developed democracies, in the UK, in the
Canada.
US. Even McCain's daughter was being told to run to replace their dad. And so the sentiment is always there after the passing of a leader. And in our situation, it becomes worse because of the narrow period. So we hold by elections when the people are still mourning
Yes.
the passing of a leader. So the by-election becomes an extension of mourning. And then the people look at this family as a family that has lost a breadwinner. So that's why it has become, embedded into part of the estate of the deceased. I have just checked the law, the Parliament, the Members of Parliament Remuneration Act. Parliament Remuneration of Members Act, Chapter 259, amended in 2020. There is a provision that if a member dies, a member of Parliament dies on payment of gratuity, the family, the next of kin, is paid a basic salary of that member of Parliament for 1 year. Annual MP's salary for 1 year is paid as
besides the gratuity
for the deceased member. So people who look at it as a situation of now who is going to take care of these people? They still need to get this salary,
Condolence.
Yes. So the law provides for that. And I think there is little knowledge on that. So as the family, comes to reality with the passing of a breadwinner, the law has taken care of their basic needs. But the mourning season, because even when before the person is buried, people start whispering, now who is taking the seat? It shouldn't leave this family. As if we are in a monarchy kind of thing. Then, of course, the practice at the national level makes it worse. Seats are like personal holder. So if a political office is seen like Sarah's office, then how do you must wrestle to keep it in the family. And where such circumstances exist, then the outcome is more or less predetermined because the ground does not tilt much from that mourning kind of sympathy for the family. And so we need to do two things. One is popularize this provision that the family bread issues are already taken care of by law. But two, we need to extend the period through which a by-election is held so that it's outside the mourning season and people have healed and moved on. And we don't need to drag people. I remember the case of Scovia Elongeti in Katakwi. I think she was defiled by this move of succession to grab the seat of the father. The young girl got lost in Parliament, and she has since disappeared. Yeah, I think that in a way really interfered.
She was 19?
With her career path.
She was a teenager.
She was a teenager at the time.
You drag a teenager into national politics with all the hyenas
and of course
and
the
all
president
the
came and campaigned for her.
that happened there. I'm sure she was messed up in a way. I don't think that it was an empowering opportunity for her because I don't think she was mentally ready for that. So we need to separate the two.
Thank you very much, Doctor. I would like to move on to the issue of political parties, but before that, Doctor, I would like to hear your comments as well regarding the Doolo woman parliamentary by-election, but also by-elections in general.
Yeah, thank you so much. The colleagues have talked about the major things about by-elections. Maybe I'll just add on a few.
Yes.
By-elections in this country have a history, and it has always been a nasty history, that it is a high-charged election. It is the only election where you have the party leaders with liberty to go and campaign for their candidates with all the resources that they have. Because in the main election, the party leader is busy looking for votes, so he may not go in every constituency. But this one, you find the whole country now ganging up there. Majority of them have been very violent, violent, and the violence being created by the state, of course, which has a monopoly of it. Doolo is special. It has been silent. In fact, many people don't even know that there is an election there. So I don't know whether the stakes were not so high. I'm not sure. It is not like the Bugiri municipality by election or Arua. Arua, the one of
Kayunga.
the one of where the NUP leader was almost killed,
Yeah.
or Kayunga, the LC5 of Kayunga, or the Bukedea one. It has been calm. So I don't know whether the stakes were not so high. I don't know whether there have been stringent provisions by the Electoral Commission, but to me, I just think that the stakes were not so high. Nobody is struggling. There are so many issues to settle, so nobody is struggling to take that position. Number two is the issue of money in these elections. By-elections where political forces use money to canvass votes, to be simplistic, to buy votes. Doolo again, I have not yet seen a vehicle being ransacked and stopped. I have not seen on TV because I was not there. In these other elections, we have been seeing people really, like the last election in Apache.
Yeah.
There was a lot of money, and everybody was accusing the other. UPC was accusing NRM, NRM was accusing UPC, because the strong ones were NRM and UPC. But you see, sometimes I get confused. These two are almost the same. Then the third thing is that for the first time in Doolo, the candidates are almost of the same quality. Somebody has already talked about it. We don't have these mediocres, because most of them, other than that Cecilia's daughter, have been vying.
Yes.
Because this other one of independence, there is some young lady there who has even vied in another area. She has now come to that area. Then the NRM one has been a perennial one.
They got serious votes.
So you find that there are people who, if you closed your eyes and any one of them won, you would not mind so much. Unlike in some areas where you see a by-election. And I think it is also the quality of the person who died. Because even the person who they got from her family is very good. I remember one where the candidate would not say anything, that Katakwi thing. They were just chanting. The young lady they had just to get for her Gomesi and put her in and run her around in yellow. And she won the election, and it was a very big disappointment. Lastly, with these by-elections, sometimes, as my colleague, Mr. Mugumi, has said, there are preparations of trying to look at the terrain for the next election.
Yeah.
And other political parties try to put a lot of force there. Of course, I normally look at it as artificial, because the area of operation is very small.
Yeah.
So you see them very active, and sometimes it deceives the public that these guys can do something.
Yeah.
Most of these political parties, as I've always argued, do not have capacity to canvass elections in the whole country and compete with the sitting government, which uses state. Because for it doesn't use the agents, they use the state. RDCs, the LC5, everybody will be there to work for them. And sometimes that's why you would see in the last cycle, the 10th Parliament.
Yeah.
Most of the by-elections were won by opposition. And I think it taught NRM a lesson. And when they came in this circle, I think it is only one so far. That one of Apache, that lady of UPC. But of course, she was putting on. She was like Mirinda. She was yellow red, somehow. The others, NRM has been winning, but not because it is very strong everywhere, but they are utilizing the state machinery to make sure that they win, including the Electoral Commission.
Yes.
Including the Electoral Commission. So I think, as he said, this is something in a young democracy. Of course, for me, as we shall discuss later, I think that politics in this country has been hinged on three things. Your birthright, from which family are you coming from? Of course, which is everywhere, even in the Western world. How much money you have, and which religion do you follow. I know there are places where if you are not a Muslim, to win an election may be very hard. I can give you, for example, Bugweri, where Abdu Katuntu comes from. It is very difficult for a Christian to go there and win an election. Or Kawempe, some of these Kawempe areas. So I really feel that we are still developing. It's not an issue thing. And I was hearing my colleagues here talking about issues. Our election here is not issue-based because even the voters do not understand those issues. And that's why the president goes there and promises a road.
With envelopes.
But at the same time, he has to give something. Because a road alone will not cause elections. Because who wants a road for what? When you talk about bringing a legislator who is going to legislate, to do oversight, and do other things. If you went to campaign on that ground, you can never win an election. So you have to go and dance around, move around with a certain pastor or imam or with a certain leader who is a cult leader somewhere there, political cult leader. It is quite very difficult. That's why you see, for example, is it really necessary that a NUP leader should fly from America to go and campaign for a candidate in Doolo?
Party visibility.
I really feel that if there were really political parties, they should have structures. But until people see the other cult leader, they don't believe in it. They don't believe in it. So we still have a long way, but we have to keep moving. I also agree that we have to keep moving.
Yeah.
But you want to imagine that sometimes it's a waste of time.
Yeah.
Can I just... I know that I had the privilege of taking the initiative, but I think some of the issues about the by-elections in principle, one, I must say, and this is really for the purpose of the future, which is basically about this program, in actually Oyam North, to the credit of Eunice Appiah, Dr. Eunice Appiah, who eventually won, she almost certainly won the elections in 2021. And the NRM military basically grabbed the outcomes from her. It was very much less about the fact that she and a section of the party that supported her are closely linked to NRA, which is true they are, as a matter of fact. But since we are dissecting this for the purpose of the citizenry, the ground in Oyam was such that Eunice would almost certainly win anyway. And she actually won not because NRA conceded, but she won because of the overwhelming might of the people. And Sarah, that's one of the reasons, and my two colleagues here, that's one of the reasons why I continue to push the view that we must continue organizing. And I continue to push the view that if and when we have a genuine leadership, in fact, from the political opposition, and mobilize the critical mass of particularly younger Ugandans, we should be able to push Museveni off the cliff without necessarily the bullet, which is his expertise from Luero. In Oyam, one of the other reasons why we won was because of Bukedia. I remember, I think I talked to Bukedia on this program. I give myself part credit to that. I went to Bukedia and came and shouted at NRA. I went to Capital Gang and shouted at NRA and used every other mainstream media and shouted. And we so basically exposed Museveni and his band. Yeah. It was an extremely embarrassing thing, and Museveni went mum. Museveni had to respond, and part of the response was to say that they could not practice what they did in Bukedia in Oyam North.
Yeah.
Number one. But number two, Oyam is not Bukedia, because I said language generally is fairly cohesive. Sometimes I get surprised how certain wholesale group go to NRA, but generally they're quite cohesive. So Museveni knew that with the strength of support and vote for UPC, away from his questionable association with Jimmy, that if he was to antagonize the people there, the outcome would almost certainly be bloody. And I've suggested it's really not in NRA's interest to have open political war with UPC anymore. They beat us, and then we will take them to court at some stage, but we forgive them anyway. So it's not actually in his interest. So, and so remember, he made this declaration. But bring you back to Doolo, as I said, in terms of the calm and stability, calm down there. In part, because of the extremes in Bukedia.
Yeah.
And then whatever happened in Oyam, including which of what's even embarrassing regardless of the outcome, I think the NRA guys are becoming more and more cautious. I'm not saying they'll not try it wild anymore, but I think it may be getting harder for them in some of those spaces to do the open door, open roof rigging and thuggery. The Doolo grounds that I went around, you know, is one in which people were being relatively civil in terms of alternative views, and it was in a number of spaces where you find somebody from FDC and somebody from NRA and somebody from UPC, and the conversation was civil. And as I said, I witnessed a number of crossings, you know, that took place. But I think the population there would not tolerate excesses, particularly of these goons from nowhere. And I think that's the difficulty Mr. Museveni is facing. Meaning, some of his cadres in Lango, as of today, would find it very difficult to do the bidding for him. But it's too early to suggest that they can't do it because we don't know what may have happened overnight. But really, I think it's more about that. It's about the ground. But what am I saying? I'm saying if some of these things can happen in Doolo, there's no reason why we shouldn't encourage these things to happen in our power, or indeed, in this case, perhaps even in my own Agongera.
All right, thank you very much. And of course, once again, we'll wait for the results of the elections as they come out today. I would like to move the discussion before we go into a break to political parties. We have seen a lot of breakdown or factionalism within political parties, all the way from UPC, DP, even NRM. We see a fight now between Secretariat and SEC. And of course, NUP.
And father and son.
That failed to, and father and son. As, I mean, presumably. But Mr. Muguzi, as someone who has an expertise in election issues and democratic issues, what do you make of the state of political parties in Uganda right now?
The state of political parties in Uganda is worrying. The squabbles that are ongoing should be concerning to anyone that loves democracy. But most importantly, the leadership, the quality of leadership. I think it would start with the quality of leadership, because you see, I do know that many political parties in Uganda have not been united by ideals.
Yes.
But these are common interests, and most of the times it is deals that have brought them together. And therefore, because they've been brought together by deals, mere throw of money somehow into the party is enough to break them. Over issues of money, they cannot transcend monetary issues. But that said, in the context within which political parties are operating, it would require and call for a special type of leadership. Unfortunately, many of the people that are leading political parties today are falling short of the required competences. As a political leader, you need to be renewing your skills. You need to upgrade them so much that your projection is at this level, so that you can transcend over trivialities and trifles, so that you can see as far as 10 years to come. So I think political parties in Uganda lack leadership. Secondly, they've not been united. There are no ideals, concrete ideals that have united them. Many of them have been built for different reasons.
Yes.
And I think what's it called? That selfishness that they have, the fact that political parties are formed for sometimes self-enrichment, sometimes they just formed to be seen to be doing something, makes them not see the bigger picture. Now, short of seeing that bigger picture and short of leadership, then they start eating on each other as if the grasshoppers tied up into a bottle. So it is worrying as we head towards an election. But also, having said what I said at the beginning, that you see, if you look at the context in which they're operating, maybe these things should happen. It's a stage they should go through to see whether or not or not they can grow stronger. But also the parties that seem to be older are not providing any good examples. Because if you have parties that have chosen to walk away from a position where they would showcase themselves and stand as strong opposition and go into alliance, quote unquote, with the party in power, then it leaves the young ones with no examples to follow. But this is not not be used as an excuse for failing to lead. So leadership is an issue. The parties are in shambles, and it's a worrying situation. So worrying because you cannot. It is unimaginable that democracy can operate without political parties. And if political parties are in a state in which they are at, in Uganda today, you then have nothing but to worry about how then this democracy is going to shape itself forward.
Dr. Bireete, do you agree with our dear guest regarding the state of political parties, given the feuds we see left and right?
To a big extent, yes, but I just want to add the context within which parties are operating in. Democracy thrives on 4 key things. The active citizenry, and I think Joe, painted a picture of the difference the active citizenry create in by-elections,
Yes.
in Okot as compared to Gede, where a candidate was undressed and manhandled at a EC office, and some of the army people were then arrested, and the drama that happened in that place. So once you have the active citizenry that are enlightened, there's less drama you can create in an election, because they will push you out, they will push back. The second issue that we need to build democracy is the rule of law. Can we have known rules of engagement that govern leaders as they come to power, as they are in power, and also provide for exit? We don't have that. The things might be written in a vague manner on paper, but they are even vague on paper because we don't have things like term limits. We don't have an exit route. We are stuck with a life presidency and such things. The third element is independent institutions of governance, electoral commission, parliament. We are still dealing with now threatening of people who blow the whistle of corruption in parliament. Is parliament still fit as a temple of democracy? What is the state of our electoral commission? I know we'll come to that debate. And the fourth element is general checks and balances. Who controls whose excesses? We have seen the excesses of the army in elections. Who will call them to order? Because their excesses benefit the incumbent, who is the commander-in-chief, and is completely silent on the violence and drama caused by the army in our elections. So when you have this context, what space do political parties occupy? The NRM seems to be functional in an artificial manner because they are shielded by state resources and state institutions. There's a fusion between the NRM party and the state.
Yes.
So if you, blow a torch in the NRM, you might seem, if you are not a Ugandan, you might think it is a normal party, but it's just shielded by the state through institutions, resources. They send campaign messages from local council structures, police, DISO, ISO, and the army. All these are the structures that act as campaign agents for NRM in by-elections and general elections, as well as conduits for failing funds, state resources largely. So you have that, and then, so it's the state versus the other parties. Because you can't tell the difference between NRM and the state. So you have UPC, DP, NUP, FDC versus the state. So the ground is already tilted even before they start, in terms of mobilization, in terms of movement, many candidates, opposition agents and the leaders are intercepted, are arrested, are harassed. And, you know, all that torture, the police, which swings then into motion to protect the NRM against other people. So you have the state versus others. Then you have a situation of now, like a by-election, you have a shorter campaign period. That's why it seems like peaceful. Because first of all, the citizens are enlightened in language.
Yes.
That's why you have very highly qualified candidates, even as MPs, because of the quality of the citizenry in language.
True, true. Reflects the general.
The general citizenry, you know, education and the literacy levels. Whereas you have other candidates who are struggling with the composing sentences in other parts of the region.
And documents.
By the way, just to add on something, Lango, since independence, has been producing very good legislators in this country. If you look at all the regimes, even the incumbents, if you look at them, the ones who are there, look at people like Ben Wacha, look at people like Mara Tubo, look at Silio Gual, look at the cousin of Obote, what is his name? Adoko Nechon, and all those guys, they have been providing. In fact, in a parliament where you have majority of those people, sometimes in the 7th and in the 8th parliament, they were almost running parliament. About 4 or 5 guys from Lango running parliament, and the rest were just following. So what she's saying is very, very true. There are areas where you have to struggle to find who is the MP of this place. For example, I come from Butembe. I have never seen my MP. I've seen him anywhere. Come from Butembe County, which is in Ginger Town, near Ginger Town. But my friend, the type of MPs who come there after Migereko, you can't remember them. You can't even be very sure who replaced Mugereko. You have to struggle and say, oh, it was some guy called Lufafa. Then what about this one? Who is there? It's very, very difficult. But for those areas, they have been producing very good politicians.
And then, if you don't mind, just to, which case basically confirms the point my brother here has been suggesting about the exemplary leadership that we require as a country, and the exemplary leadership we require as political parties and particular opposition leaders. And Sarah and I, in our old lives, we've been pushing this very much, that people to look up to. Some of the work that this program does excellently is to organize and mobilize, encourage yourselves, motivate your younger selves, and to look up to the next generation, look up the excellent ones of yourselves, to be able to then go ahead and provide the leadership that we need as a country. In the absence of key organized institutions, as Sarah was lamenting, it's extremely important that whatever organization is available should be able to do that. And for us as political parties, we fall substantially short of that. And we've said, and I've said clearly that, yes, it is our biggest challenges. And for me, I've said again that, including telling this program, that I would rather, in opposition, we have less opposition political parties, but more leaders, and leaders who are providing directions, examples. And so once in a while, when I wake up in the morning and I find an SMS from a young person seeking guidance, and from a young person drawing credit, and I get consoled that we're changing lives somehow. That really should be what politics is all about. But in any case, that's politics of idealism and violence, but unfortunately, the politics that we're substantially losing. But I hope out of this conversation, that should be the politics and direction where we should go.
Right. Thank you very much. As you
if I may just conclude.
Yeah,
so
sure.
when you look at the state of parties, they have weaker internal systems.
Yes.
And now why they are up in disagreement and petty debates is a weakness in a conflict resolution mechanisms. Something that should have been petty and internal becomes a major issue. Then it's a next headline of major papers, major dailies, and dominates debate, taking away the real work that these parties should be doing. And this builds into why they can't even build a coalition. Because through their vulnerability, they can only make sense as a coalition, through unity. But everybody in these opposition parties looks at themselves as if they are nearer the bread. We are near the bread, we don't need so and so. we can go it alone, and that's how they've managed to keep
Sometimes in a very shallow way.
NRM in power. Yeah, I submit.
Thank you very much. And we are going to continue the discussion. Of course, a few years back, we had the president saying he will crush opposition. And last year, I remember when we had the debate on FDC, you know, the problems in FDC, there was a prediction that NUP was the next target. But as to whether that is coming to pass, Doctor here will pick up from that in the next segment.
They already.
Please stick with us here on the Citizens Chat Show. Thank you very much.
Digital rights are those human rights and legal rights that allow individuals to access, use, create, and publish digital media or to access and use computers, other electronic devices, and telecommunication networks. Digital rights include a right to freedom of expression, information and communication through technology, a right to privacy and data protection, a right to credit for personal works, a right to universal and equal digital access, a right to identity, a right to anonymity, a right to be forgotten, and a right for protection of minors, among others. The state's digital rights are frequently violated through various unfair actions, for example, blockage of websites and social networks, theft of credentials, unauthorized use of people's data for personal gain, privacy intrusion, online censorship, arrests and intimidation of online users, internet blockages, and the proliferation of laws and regulations that undermine the potential of technology to drive social, economic, and political development worldwide. It is hence every citizen's responsibility to respect rights of other digital users and to speak out or report to the responsible parties when one's rights are violated.
Yes, welcome back to the Citizens Chat Show here as we try to break down issues. As a country, we are on the highway to 2026 elections. And of course, in a heated moment right now, given the Doolo by-election to replace the much honorable the late Cecilia Ogwal. Today, of course, we are proceeding to discuss that, which we did in the first segment. We also started the discussion on political parties. We see a breakdown or clashes across board. I think it's only a few smaller parties that at this point are not experiencing such. We might as well address our minds to the issues at Parliament, which we are going to do in this second segment. And of course, the custodians of democracy, the Electoral Commission, whom we shall also make some time to discuss. Thank you and welcome back. And I would like to start where we stopped, Doctor. A few years ago, the president said he would crush opposition. And last year, during the clashes with the Forum for Democratic Change, we mentioned that NUP would be the next culprit. Have we now reached a point where opposition is crushed, seeing the developments in NUP in the last few days?
Yeah, thank you very much. Before I delve into that,
yes,
let me just give this look at this, build this concept of political parties. Now, political parties, from its history, are normally interest groups. And these interest groups realize that the only way to achieve their interest, they must vie for political power. If you look at political parties in Europe and other places where they started as labor movements, as race advocates, or advocates of certain groups. So the first thing is interest. What is the interest? In Uganda, last time we discussed about political parties, we said that the first political parties of Uganda had some idea. They were based on certain ideologies. And I said that when you looked at UPC, you would know what they are fighting for. DP, you would know. Kabaka Yeka, they had something to fight for. And therefore, people came into political parties because they had their ideas. Today, and people have been saying, the members in the political parties are young, and they are. I'm a student of history. If you look at the political parties at independence, the leaders were young people who had just left college, or some of them who have not even been in college, but had just come from their trades and started. But they were very focused characters, very focused. You can imagine the then Prime Minister was not yet 40. Was not yet 40, but very focused.
Obote.
Yes, and the others, the Bendikito Kiwanukas and the other people who came at that time of independence. So the issue of age is not, the difference today is that the material time. The material time, this is a time when Uganda is struggling to move into the middle age income. Today they announced that now we're in the lower middle income. And everybody is struggling to reach there. One time, somebody asked the president, how are you going to create this middle income people? And he answered them that he was going to allow them to work and the NRM would help them. And the answer was vague. I did not understand what he meant, what he meant by giving that wrong answer. But later in life, I've realized that they would be allowed to steal and nothing happens to them. And therefore, the middle income people you have seen who have been created are people you may think are thieves. You may think are thieves. And now these are the people who are joining political parties. And they are the ones even leading them. You can check the leaders of political parties, because people here only look at the presidents, the chairman, and the top leader. Have you looked at their treasurers? Have you looked at their publicities, secretaries, and so on? Sometimes some of them cannot win an election for a head boy in Budo or for a head girl in Nabisunsa, because the way they reason, you just see traders who have come to get something to eat. They're really political merchants. So that is one of the problems that we have in political parties, which was different in 1960. 1960, people left what they were doing to go in the political parties and serve so that they achieve something. Somebody would leave his farm in Butambala to go and join Kabaka Yeka to push for the interests of the kingdom. Some people left their chambers in town to go and join DP and UPC to go and build the country. And you would really see people who are arguing, like there was a man from Mukono called Muguzi, there was a Kusbati Obangori from Teso, polished guys. They were not well educated, not graduates. And when you look at them, if you went to their homes up to today, I met Kushbat Obangor in 2004.
Yeah.
And he was living in an incomplete house in Soroti. Today, somebody joins politics today, and he has a house which looks like a hotel. And you wonder, where has this person gotten money? From the political parties. So there is, I want to agree with them that the mindset of the political leaders is quite different and therefore cannot sustain. Because deals change when you enter into this politics and you find that this is not working, you change your deals, and therefore you find these are just deal men. The other day, they found an MP in an MP's vehicle. An MP lost, this is public, so I am not a committee. An MP lost 118 million shillings in his car.
Nobody is asking where.
And you ask 118 million. Where this man, is he a merchant? Is he a money changer or what?
Is there a policy that restricts cash?
I don't know. I don't know whether this money, money,
that's right.
Whether this money was his money, because I know he's a prolific lawyer.
Money or that
because I thought his law firm, they pay him. Don't they pay them on account? So there is a very big problem, money laundering almost. So I really feel that that is one problem. But the second problem of political parties in Uganda.
But on that very one, because you see, if it was clean money, he should have gone and banked it. But he has to keep it to a point where the car washers have
to... He forgets it in the car.
No, he doesn't forget it. He does not have anywhere to take it. He has to move with it. Then he has to leave it in the boot. This cannot have been clean money.
It's terrible. So for me, I really think that the other problem with the political parties is that do they have any mod operandi? Or it is the leader who says whatever he wants to say, and that becomes law. And that has been planted here by NRM. NRM, almost what the chairman says is law, and you hear people quoting him. You don't hear them quoting the law, as Sarah said. They don't quote the law. They are saying chairman said. Now, how can chairman become a law? So that thing therefore becomes a property of somebody. And that's why you have seen that political parties in Uganda are properties of their founders. UPC is a property of Obote. And therefore, Akena has a right, whether he is fit or not, he should be its leader. NRM, I know very soon they will suggest that the successor comes from Museveni family. In Tanzania, it's different because by all standards, if it was performance and credibility and everything, then Makongoro would have inherited Nyerere.
Yeah.
But you don't find any family member of Nyerere in the political leadership of CCM. CCM was handed to the state. In fact, that's why CCM is, I normally tell people that the only operating parties that I know about in Africa are Chama cha Mapinduzi in Tanzania and African National Congress, because the political parties are stronger than the individuals, and they have exhibited that. You saw how it pushed out two presidents. ANC pushed out two presidents and they left. In Tanzania, I can tell you, CCM knows who will replace Samia Suluhu. They are aware.
Actually, Makongoro started his politics. Mwalimu Julius Nyerere's son is politics in an opposition party.
Yeah, I know. Wow. So what I can tell you is that these political parties, if they don't create structures that somehow separate the founder and the members, then do they have members? You wonder. Sometimes you see the ruling party masquerading that they are recording members. They are members. I doubt whether, because their constitution is very clear on how somebody becomes a member.
Yeah.
It does not say that you will be moving around using government funds to record people's names. There is a way you are supposed to pay in your cell, and you are registered by, there is a chairperson in every village of NRM. That is the person who should be registering the members of NRM. But now I hear people are moving around with registers that they are writing members. That's not how the Constitution says.
And there was disinformation in that registration of NRM. They were telling people in the countryside that if you don't register, you won't participate in the general elections.
That is
you
true.
You want to have your national
PDM.
ID renewed. You won't participate in PDM and other services.
True. So that is another thing. We don't have members, because when a political party have members, it is the members to demand on how political parties work. In Uganda here, FDC is for somebody. NUP is for somebody. And you find somebody even also believing so. Because they are no. For example, who are the members of NUP? You don't hear them. They now have issues. But have you heard that a group of members of NUP, of this branch, Okot branch, or this branch in Chadondo, or in Ruwero, saying that for us we don't agree? It is the leader who sits there like a boss and decides. He says, I will punish you. And sometimes you look at these people and say, are these cults? The last one is that political parties in Uganda have also an issue, in addition to what they talked about. They don't have direction in most cases. Their ultimate is to garner support and win an election. That is a given. But in most cases, after election, the law in the country does not allow them to move around. So what they have done to counter that is to use this time to see how they can. So people go in political parties, especially the opposition parties, to make a name so that they can make a price to be bought. So you find a person being a very strong opposition leader in a political party. But his or her intention is to brand himself or herself so that they can be bought. And I have seen this trend moving on. Majority of the ministers in NRM government now were from opposition, including the speaker right now, including the deputy speaker. So you find that people are just branding themselves so that they can be bought. And this is dangerous. So sometimes what Sarah and others are calling conflict, it's a planned thing. Somebody is just waiting for a small problem to happen so that he can say, you see, they are pushing me, so I need to go. Because if a person is worthy, and I want you to note some of these people who are now disturbing political parties. They have been in several political parties, and wherever they go, they cause conflict. Let's just talk about the former leader of opposition. Remember, he was at first a member of DP. He left DP, they formed their pressure group called Subi, which somehow did not move, it did not go far. He joined FDC, and I want people to remember when he joined FDC.
He joined FDC or he joined the FOC?
No, he joined FDC.
Not Action for Change.
Action for Change was a pressure group, but he was really a member of FDC. FDC. From there, he disagreed with FDC for some time. They came up with the DP. There's that thing they called DP something. DP something. Then into NOP. So when you look at such leaders, you wonder whether they are really genuine. What is their focus? Do they want to build a political force,
DP block,
or the DP block, or they are merchants? Look at my friend from Masaka, Kabonera, Kimanya Kabonera. He has a political party which has never been dissolved. The political party is there, and when you check in records, he's still the leader of that political party. He's still the leader of that political party. But he is standing on a ticket of NUP. Confusion. So when you look at this person, you cannot have somebody who puts on this... no, the one of Muslims is called what? Sirimin, of Muslims, and a rosary. It is really funny. So I think we need to be clear. And that lack of clarity is what causes this confusion in a political party. So you find somebody is in FDC, but is putting on a yellow tie. But the member is the member of FDC. It creates a lot of problems. So they are transactional leaders. They are transactional leaders. They are transactional leaders. They are not transformational leaders. So that has killed the because political parties would want leaders who are transformation. Because political parties need to grow. These are transactions. Once he has made a transaction, he has achieved, he moves on. And they keep on rotating. So for me today, if I hear that some of these NUPU guys who are now complaining that, there is no democracy in NUPU, there is a family thing, when they are appointed ministers, they will start saying, oh, for sure, we saw that NUPU was, but they are not NUPU members. I think they are not NUPU members. A person who is a NUPU member would be willing to go and resolve problems because Chagulanyi does not have a gun. You just need to go and tell him, this one, shut up. I think you should not go like this. But they are looking for excuses to go elsewhere. That's what I can see. And that has happened with so many others. In FDC, you have seen the people who have just been there waiting to be grabbed. And when they are bought, they really go. And they disappoint people. For example, the first time I was very disappointed, and that's why I'm not an active politician, is when my former MP joined the NRM. I was very shocked. This Aguraori, may his soul rest in eternal peace. I was very disappointed. Because this was an ideologue. He was an ideologue of a political party. And he had convinced so many young people during the time of my time at the university as an agent of change. Very eloquent, bright man. So many people lost life. There is a man called Ojur I don't know whether some of you know him. He was a guild president at Makerere during our time. That man is disabled. He's disabled. He was beaten by CMI. In fact, he was going to die if it was not for Ekulo Epak, Honorable, to allege in Parliament that Ojuru has been killed. And therefore, the security operatives had to stop very fast and say, oh, Ojuru is here, he's alive. But up to today, he cannot walk properly. And so many young people, there was a young man called Komakech.
Yeah.
He disappeared. Up to today, we don't know where he went. And all of a sudden, somebody who has been convincing them, converting them into this thing, just crosses. So people who are crossing from political party from this to this, please, do you know the effect you leave on people? You know how many people have died for NUP? Died for NUP in 2021, 2020 towards 2021. How many people are orphans? How many people are jobless? How many people are disabled? Then you just come and say, me, I have seen, I need to work with the government. I'm talking to the likes of Kagabo. Be serious. Be really very serious. That we need to be serious. And therefore, the citizenry should take these people very seriously. If a man was campaigning to you that government was corrupt and what have you, after 1 year, what has happened? We need to, the citizenry need to really be educated. And I wish I had an opportunity to tell young people to shun these guys. Like such a man, when he comes, he should be shunned. He should not have even anybody to nominate him so that he goes where he belongs. Some of these should go and sell charcoal or do other businesses which...
We're at the same university at the same time with Norbert Mao.
Norbert Mao was ahead of me so much, but he was our icon. When he would come, and you know he was a Mitchellite, when he would come to Mitchell, everybody would want to take a photograph with him. I know, now he's a minister. If he wanted to take a photograph with me, I would run away.
Thank you very much for that submission, Doctor. To you, Mr. Ochieno, moving on from political parties, the state of parliament. We have had an exhibition online for 2 weeks now, exposing a lot of alleged dirt or dirt within the institution. And of course, we are having fears about the whistleblowers, their safety. What do you make of the current situation with Uganda Parliament?
I think that I'll have the privilege of 1 minute to link Parliament to the political parties because they're sort of really intrinsically the same. And it's not about politics. In fact, part of our earlier conversation, I thought that the topic's actually quite congested. There's so much to talk about, and they're all very, very important, considering the timing. That I am a Democrat, I am a politician, and I'm a party leader, and I'm a convictionist leftist, Uganda People's Congress. I'm closer to socialism. I'm a social democrat. And I am a member, except, you know, I need to renew it, of the British Labour Party, sister party, and of the African National Congress Associated, and of the CCM. That said, I am also, my permanent father is Milton Obote, political father, for whom I'm his permanent spokesperson. Milton Obote was a net admirer of Westminster parliamentary system. Now, the privilege I had when Museveni chased me from Micho, actually, this bunch actually arrested me from Micho. Amirat, did you know that?
Oh.
Yes. So I found myself in exile in UK. And every other time we talk, I fell absolutely in love with the parliamentary system of governance. Parliament is just very much about national polity, and it's very much about what happens to political parties and organizations. Old Milton, when the suggestions about presidential systems, direct election to presidents came in, apparently he was a reluctant supporter of it. He didn't. And one of his former cabinet colleagues told me in London that, oh, Mzee was not keen. Mzee later told me he was not keen because he basically believed that a parliamentary system capacitated parliamentarians. Parliamentary systems actually, much as people might say otherwise, checked the president much more better. And he also believed that in parliamentary systems, parliamentarians, people who eventually emerge as legislators, are people then who will have to go through competitive a process of screening at grassroots, at constituency levels, based on the political parties and the ideals that they sell. So that by the time you have a cumulative political party, maybe that wins, say, 40% for argument's sake, and they've got a simple majority, they go to National Assembly. The polity there is about, these are programs for Uganda People's Congress, these are programs for NUP, and what is it yours? And when we're having budgetary conversations, you play the figures and on the table. You've got to convince your colleagues, you've got to convince your colleagues, and you've got to play through your whips to add the numbers and make the numbers. And on that, thankfully, these days, to political for televised processes, citizens watch you, and the winner takes the process. So the more I actually see the mess in Uganda under NRA, the more convinced I am. Now, part of our early conversation that we missed about the state of political parties is basically when NRA came, one, and killed political parties, and then two, when NRA came and pushed this monolithic personal merit thing, me, myself, and I. Not surprising, even the conversation we're talking about, this family thing where children and others follow families, because you go to Nagongera, who are the big names, big name families? You go to Nagongera, who are those with money? Who are the children who were seen the other day with the honorable MP? And what is it about money? What is it about access? What is it about opportunities? Personalized. But take you back then to the parliamentary processes. My privilege was also to become a very active and relatively senior member of the British Labour Party at a political party operational levels. Point you guys were making, the power of the individual members is powerful. I was telling young activists the other day in Doolo, actually. So when you come to a branch meeting, a member of parliament comes to a branch meeting, you know that power is there in the membership, and power is there in the chairperson, because the leading person down there. Take it up to the constituency level. I think I've said this several times. At the time of the war in Iraq, Blair and Bush, that's the power of the state, power of imperialism, and powerful imperialist global media, and power of money also, and dubious, now almost Zionist kind of thing, or Middle East thing. That's really how Bush and Blair managed to push themselves to the war in Iraq. War in Iraq was extremely unpopular. Blair just about pushed it because he was then an extremely popular prime minister with a huge power, and sort of basically it meant that he lost it. What am I saying? The campaign in constituencies to convince constituency members. I was chair of the Parliamentary Party at the time, my local party. People come, cabinet witnesses come. One of the first initial person who was sent to our constituents to convince us was a former soldier. How members will tell of the guest who's come, how people will quote the constitution, local constitution, the national provisions. You see genuine, active citizen participation. Now, I think that the challenges we face is that while, so for me, that made me richer, including personally, and it's actually informed, generally by and large, what and who I am today politically, in terms of, including around the convictionist politics. But then fast forward to people like, see, my young friend here. Not many people are like him, because we said much earlier, they've really not had the opportunity to engage at university levels the way you did, some of the qualities that you guys just about managed. And today, in between a 20-year period where parties had been killed, it was about movement, this movement, this movement, this movement, the other. And movement, money, movement, money, movement, money. Some of the quality of the legislators we're having conversations about today. These days, when election time are coming, I've met even people who say that, well, I think, I want to go to parliament, but, I think I want to stand, but I'm not sure which party yet. So now the people are telling which one is likely to allow me to come in, but most importantly, which one is likely to give me enough money, but which one most likely will enable me to go there. So the issue is to go there to eat the deal, rather than to go ahead and serve and to commit these changes. So the current state of our parliament tells you, therefore, that we do not have a National Assembly. We have a space where people basically go to eat and to steal. I think we've reached a stage what has happened in the recent exhibition, and even pre-say exhibition, is so shambolic that I am sad that as a political leader, I don't have the power to mobilize UPC members enough, to mobilize younger people enough, to mobilize my political opposition leaders together so that we're able to mobilize sufficient citizens for us to go to the streets of Kampala, and primarily Kampala starting with, to simply begin to demand for our money which Museveni and his thieving birds are thieving directly, openly. This morning, one of the many text messages I received was from a cousin. Granted, he's not that very desperate, but he was telling me that the other day when I was looking for him, and he had rushed his wife to a hospital in Toro. Good enough, he owns a motorbike, and that the medical bill was 230. He left on a routine, and so they only had 90,000 shillings. This is a semi-illiterate guy, but just does very well. He's been following me and I've been supporting him for a period of about 10 years. So he's doing very well for his level, doesn't drink and all those kind of stuff. He's running his family very well. This guy had 90,000 shillings in his pocket. The guy ahead on the bill was 230,000 shillings. And he negotiates and then he draws names, and so they come home. Medical treatment as a matter of routine. He's left Maundo, gone to Nagonga, where is our local health facility is, gone through Kisoko, reached Tororo, left National Hospital, and to some place that I don't know. 230,000 Uganda shillings. That's a huge amount of money for somebody on average in the village. Many a time I don't have it in my pocket. You know? Now, that versus an apparent theft, criminal theft of the National Assembly, people chopping off the till. You know, so I think we need to mobilize those people, let them know that while they're struggling, Nagongara Health Facility doesn't have medicine. I don't know whether I told this program, I think I was a miss, I was another television program I was telling the other day. My elder brother, 74, had typhoid. And I was just lucky that when I was coming from Okot, outgoing Inspector General's police's father's burial, I passed home and I slept home, and amidst other emergencies, you know, my brother just shouted that he was not particularly well. We knew he had had malaria the previous week. So the workers would simply have continued to give him the till for it. Had I not stopped and pulled him to take him to the health facility, you know, he was possibly going to be gone by evening. But we left the health facility, had to go through to other clinics. Granted, the initial fee was 55,000 Uganda shillings. I know that is not easy money for most people, including around my own family. Why should basic test for typhoid be a matter for a private clinic and we've got a health facility in Nagongo dispensary? Why should a test for malaria, including his malaria the previous week, the bill was nearly 200,000 shillings, be a matter for a private facility? These are the education and information that I think we need to be able to tell our local people. So we need to make Ugandans angry enough to take Mr. Museveni and his bunch of thieving criminals to account. You know? What does it leave? It leaves people who go to the National Assembly that you want us to discuss, which quite rightly we must. You know, an organization of people who go there to put off the till, rather than to legislate, let alone to go ahead and put the executive to account.
Thank you very much.
And so it's not surprising anyway that some of the people, like Sarah was saying, people who don't have the capacity to question, they don't have the capacity to make the case. I have told a number of national programs. The first time was a Capital Radio, sorry, to talk about another program. Maybe 6-7 years ago, that 60% of the then legislators, would fail a basic test for in one-page essay submission on what the role of a member of parliament is. Now that is that assembly. I think this one here would be worse. So there is actually a national crisis to the extent, therefore, that since we are discussing this leading to an alleged elections here, hardly 12 months away, I don't know what we can very quickly change today with the composition of the assembly, the active participation of the citizens, as we said much earlier, let alone actually whatever mess the Electoral Commission may be. Because the Electoral Commission, with Simon continuing, is not going to change. Possibly, if it's likely to be his last term, he's going to be much more complacent than even ever before.
Thank you very much. And of course, the irony, we had a show here a few weeks ago, and one of the parliament policy experts told us the 11th parliament is actually the most educated parliament in Uganda's history. So it's
apparently,
just ironical.
if you don't mind, yes, apparently we were also very hopeful, Robert, weren't we? That because it was relatively young, you know, and relatively educated, we thought that they might be slightly much more radical and much more aloof from the tradition of bush power and bush
I
blood.
think they have gone to school, but they are not educated.
They are not educated.
Thank you very
Thank you.
Coming from educationalists.
They have gone to school, they have papers, but they are not educated. These are people who are going to universities in the evening and really,
I would like to
forgive
bring in
them.
our dear guest to also make a commentary regarding the parliament exhibition that has been happening.
Yeah, so my organization, Alliance for Finance Monitoring, one of the things it does with a passion is that when there is an election campaign, we track spending of candidates and publish a report. So for 2021, we had a much bigger scope. And I'll tell you one of our findings was that in 78% of the constituencies in Uganda, the candidate that was leading in spending went on and won the election. It is only in central region where we had the kind of opposite. So, but in most of the places, 78% of the candidates that stood and won were also the ones that were leading the spending charts. So you go to Parliament, which is supposed to be an organ of people's sovereignty, and it is inevitable that these men who have spent through the nose would turn it into a clearinghouse for deals. We did not stop there. We actually spoke with losing candidates. Many of them were battered, shattered, tattered financially. They were so crestfallen. And you ask the question, among others, why do you think you failed, and what do you think was that one thing that the eventual winner edged over you? They say, if I had more money.
I didn't have money.
If I had more money, I would
say.
have won it.
Yeah.
The point I am making is that those men and women you see in Parliament have spent, and we the electorate have to take our share of the blame.
Yes, yes.
Okay? Because democracy has refused to translate into livelihoods, because democracy has refused to make sense to the voters, they have now decided that you will give us our share. So we have come here. So those men and women, you know, see the challenge of being a legislator is that in those 5 years you are not only supposed to recoup what you invested, and many of them sold their homes, others are on loans, and others borrowed from money lenders, but you also have to make sure that you amass a sizable war chest to finance your next election.
That's true.
This you cannot do within the parameters of what is provided through salaries and the allowances and what are they called? Those troops they take.
Emoluments.
So you have to do more. So they engage. I will tell you that it is inevitable that the parliament will become what it is, which is of course a disservice to us the citizens. He was discussing. He was making a point, my brother Ochieno, the point of why should we allow a situation where when a family, first of all, when you have a sick person, like you picked your brother, the first point of recall is a private health facility.
True.
Families, by just meeting the medical bill, a lot of families have run bankrupt. And I was wondering, today I was laughing when I was holding the newspaper, somebody pronouncing Uganda has entered the middle income.
Yes.
What has entered the middle? Because the people suddenly of Uganda have not entered it. What has gone there? The vehicle was empty. So there was an empty vehicle that moved and entered the lower middle income. But the people of Uganda not. So these are some of the things that, so the MP is also the nearest the people can get to government. Because the government is persistently
They have become
absent.
the government in their
Government is
localities.
persistently absent from its people. So these men and women, it's a regrettable, but also a disgraceful that Parliament can become this. I know of a colleague of mine who said that he detests Parliament so much that he cannot even contemplate a situation where he stands as to become legislator. But if he ever did, then they should be, they should stand warned that he's doing so that he gains access to that floor of Parliament.
Yeah.
So that he can wear a suicide vest and blows up.
Oh, God.
Because we don't have that. Now, I remember so vividly, this Parliament, the Parliament of Tunisia, had turned out to be like this one we have. The president disbanded it.
Yes. This was
He's
2
now
years
governing.
ago.
Yes. Because you see, he was asking the voters, you had a revolution. Is this the parliament you had wanted to have? They said no. So he disbanded it. He's governing alone without a parliament. Maybe that's where we have reached.
What
This
about
parliament has-
General Sejusa's suggestion that maybe we need 1 year of martial law to straighten up the country?
Under who?
yeah, that is because it's under who.
Of course, that will be close anarchy here.
So to conclude, I think this parliament, and I am happy that there is some semblance of citizen activism coming up.
Yeah.
We have been sleeping for so long, but that there is a few Ugandans that have refused to join the bandwagon of those that have decided to do nothing. The Tebinkwatako group, that they are doing, they are championing this exhibition, and so that those who want to be informed and concerned can know the type of legislators they sent there. So those voters like me, like colleagues here, now we know when we go to the next election, especially at the level of member of parliament. And let me tell you, the citizens always know who are the good leaders.
Yes.
They know them.
Yeah, generally, yes, actually.
They know them, and many of I think this is the time for you, the people, listeners, the viewers, to now decide to go to the people you know can make better leaders. Approach them and ask them to become legislators, because they know them, but because they do not have money, they don't want to get them to contest.
Thank you very much for that submission. Dr. Bireete, you've been following the exhibition quite keenly on X, on Twitter. What do you make of the implications it has had, basically also to the citizens' awareness and conscience? Yeah.
I don't know. You see, we have a situation of complete brokenness, if I may borrow the words of Olaa, Ambassador. The moral fiber of a country does not exist. Henry has shared what happens to a voter in exchange for a vote. That is thuggery, that is fraud. A voter, I participated in elections at a very youthful age.
Which elections?
Bishanyu women.
Yeah.
Yes, at one time.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
She add that to your introductions.
She did not have money. She didn't have.
So you would talk to people and people say, yeah, we understand what you're saying. I was very young and then I could do even run on foot to campaign. I missed graduation on the campaign trail. So you talk to people and they are like, at least this one has given us. By then, the people I had stood with were distributing 500 shillings. 500 shillings. If you are lucky, you get 1,000. The situation has not changed much. The money that goes to an individual voter rarely goes beyond 5,000.
Yeah.
Some are paid on their way to vote. At least this one has given us something. But what can you do with 5,000 shillings? So, and I don't want to call it, I don't want to use it. But this state of voters, so I don't know what word to use to describe the voters that think and celebrate, at least he has given us something, let him also go and eat. So it starts with the voter. Now the current MPs are amassing as much as they can because they will disburse it.
To the voter.
And the voters think that they have touched the share of the cake. So if Dr. Ojambo here went to the campaign trail, and we had an example in Chigazi, Professor Turiachira, the one who is in Somalia as ambassador, went in elections. But after he was making a joke and said he doesn't even know whether his family voted for him.
Why he didn't spell?
And he said they counted votes at my polling station, and I kept looking at my family members. Because he got very few. So he would go and talk, and people say yes, but as you talk, people are showing you the name.
The throat.
That what should they pass on the throat. So this is the nature of democracy that we have promoted.
T-shirts.
The other day there was a debate on Parliament on the budget, the donations budget of the Vice President. The Vice President wanted more than 4 billion donations. This is money that is spent with no accountability. What do they do with these donations, the leaders?
It's up to them.
No, it's two ways. One, they want to be the mobile service providers of the people. Like I know now, I've seen an invitation, the speaker is going to launch a hospital. What is the role of the speaker? The functions are clear in the constitution. But she's now a service provider. She's doing the role of the executive. And the president is going to be there to launch. Does even have the courage to ask the source of money that have built the hospital.
Is he going to offer
that
services
he's
for free?
launching amidst the exhibition on the Saga in Parliament. He's going there to embrace, to campaign, to thank the speaker. So the people who are struggling with the exhibitions, he's also telling them that they are on their own. And then there's nothing they can do. Because he's the chief executive of the country. So, I think even in our budgeting, we need to eliminate, it's good the finance monitoring person is here with us. We need to eliminate a component of donations. A government has no business turning into charity.
Yeah.
It is us NGOs who are registered as charity organizations. Why would an executive whose function is to deliver services to the people turn into charity and carry envelopes and sacks of money very well? When will they do service delivery? So they want personalized service delivery, like the hospital of the speaker. So this is my hospital. Or I don't know what the source of money was. Then she goes there and she's going to be charging poor people. They can't even access
And nobody's asking the source of that money.
Yeah. So I think we need to eliminate things like donations for leaders. If you want to donate, give your salary. If you are a charity, because if you are a charity giver, you give your income. You don't give somebody's income. So we have leaders who are turning taxpayers' money into charity income, and they don't even account. We need to ban this.
I am the politician here, the at least practicing politician, and I just want to come back to what we said much earlier, that what is very, very badly needed and what's urgently required in this country is leadership. We need leadership from the nation state, as it were, but we need leadership from the political position. I have said sort of mildly, and partly because I also don't want to let off quite a lot, that in the likely event that I was actually leader of UPC Sara, I have got some ideas, but without letting off some of them here. Starting point, quite clearly, this citizenship thing about money, I genuinely believe that if we had an organized opposition leadership and a voice, the messages of peak one from Olaa 20, they're actually slogans, they're ways, they're means that we can actually go around this country and reawaken the people. Because don't forget, it's Mandela who said that if people can be taught to hate, they can be taught to love. And number two, that in this country, and particularly when I talk to the younger guys like this, many of them have no clue of anything beyond this NRA. So in other words, they don't know that better is possible. In Doolo itself, I met an old man who told me, as I said, there was this privilege of my cousin having been then the member of parliament. And the counting of what they say credit to her as the then young, beautiful member of parliament and deputy minister of health and her government was about the schools opened. Was about the schools opened, like that Robert talked about, schools with starter loaders, and they count so many. And they count farmers and people who got tractors. and agricultural implements and facilities. And then at the end, one man that I didn't even know existed, a particular corner, as we have having a conversation much later, talked about, because this is the post-79 liberation war, when, scarcity of agricultural products, scarcity of commodities, and said people were going naked and women were going naked. And I remember that very faintly. Sorry, the Ministry for Supplies. So a lot of clothes were brought and distributed to women, to everybody, meaning re-equipping the nation state. So my point here is that that was the state doing it rather than the individual. And then I look back and say, what is the circumstance under which you'd see old Milton Obote with his little bit of money?
Yeah.
When would you see any member of parliament? No. You see what I'm saying? No.
Donations were given to us in schools. I went to school because once you joined the P1, you would get a book, an exercise book, and a set, Oxford set, and a khaki short, and a pinky shirt.
By government.
Yes.
Precisely. And
so you go with nothing. When you're coming back, you go with those things at home. The next day, another boy is following you to school.
Wow. Indeed, actually, as a motivation. In any way. So these things are actually possible. Part of the campaigns we need to do, meaning possibly, it's to be able to contradiction. I think we need to campaign around a campaign to waken up the people, grassroots. When we talk to people, when you talk to people down there in the villages, many of them tend actually to get it. Now, a particular campaign in which I was, people were being given, lining up afterwards, and they're being given 1,000 shillings, talk about the money side. And people lining up for 1,000 shillings. And when I finished my lead campaign, I was being hosted in some Twitter space later that evening. So I left these guys to continue. So some young people hung around to talk to me in their 20s. One of them asked me for 500 shillings, and I told the boy off. And his friends were nearly sort of lynching him, because partly, of course, I was relatively new because I was Ochieno, and some of them knew me. But at the end of about 20 minutes conversation, this is really important. It was as a primary school field. A number of young primary school kids, about 12 of them, were surrounding me with some of these older boys. And so I simply said that, look at these young guys, I talked to them briefly.
They wanted money.
No, they're just listening. And so I decided, out of my wisdom, that I'm going to give them 1,000 shillings each for books, And then I said, I'm going to give you books. And then there were some 3 women there said that come late for the rally. And then this one quickly said, give it to so-and-so to lead. There was actually a reasonable gentleman there, And then I gave him 20,000 shillings, knowing very well that I think by then they had done about 15 or something. Of course, they eat some of the money. But the focus on these young guys for their primary schools, for their books, and they were generally excited. Yeah. Meaning, constructively engaging people down there, away from polity, when it's not about my self-interest, when it's not about Ochieno fame, when it's not about hard-hitting who's who. These are some of the campaigns we should actively consider to do. But while doing so, we should also be getting concerned and sharp lawyers like yourselves to put some of these thieves, national thieves, on notice, that we should be able to hold them to account.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Ochieno. Our time is fast spent, but I wanted to give a minute or two to Doctor to summarize, especially on the topic of the parliamentary exhibition.
Yeah, the parliamentary exhibition is a good thing, and we would like to thank the people who are behind it, more so Spire and his team. I've heard now he's in trouble, but that's what it takes to fight such things in such countries. And I think people should support him. We thank Makerere University Academic Staff Association. Yesterday they made a statement, official, and saying anything that will happen to their colleague, somebody will have to answer. And we hope many organizations would do so, journalists and many other people. In this country, we have developed this idea of Zirinda Bolwange. There used to be a bus here which would pick people, and the people would announce that the bus has picked so and so. And you say, let it pick, you shall see mine. But Zirinda Bolwange, normally Baganda say, makes nobody to give a prisoner food. So it is not Zirinda Bolwange now, it is with us here. But before I delve into that, I just wanted to give you a context of this matter. There was an American philosopher who was asked types of government. He is called Well. And this man gave 3 types of government. He said the first type of government is an autocracy, which is by birth. People are born and they become kings, chiefs, and so on. The second type is a theocracy, where it is by religion. There's a time in the world when people, once you're a religious leader, you would also be the leader of the people. And then democracy. And people kept silent to hear. This is a government by what? And he said by money. But a democracy is a government by money. And many people were against him, especially those guys who were promoting democracy. And even some scholars like Larry Diamond have argued that he was wrong. In Uganda, now the philosopher is correct. It would only be a fool who would say that it is not. Democracy in Uganda is a rule by money. And that is something that has been caricatured properly by the ruling government. The ruling government, when they came here, the first thing they made sure that they get control of was the gun. And that's why in Uganda, if you want, you can commit any crime, but you be found with a gun, you will be in trouble. The second thing they did was to make sure that they controlled the money, Bank of Uganda. And the third thing now, which we are seeing, is education. There is nobody who is a politician who does not have a school, and then the media, a radio. So members of parliament have looked at the situation very carefully, which has been created by NRM, and the president knows this very well. He says that Ugandans like money. They can die for money. He talked about this during COVID, that even with the COVID, they don't fear COVID so long as there is money. And therefore, he said, if you look at Yoweri Museveni, there are things which can not be far away from him. A gun and money. He's always having money. If you have a money problem, he will just do like this, and he gives you the money. And therefore,
but whose money is it?
of course, the public of Uganda. So we have a saying in Busoga. One time, a calf saw a cow chewing cud and asked, "You mother, how come every time you are chewing something?" And the cow told the calf that, "Okurobone, that you just grow, you will see." So majority of the people today may criticize this money thing, but when you enter Parliament of Uganda, there is no way you can be an MP without being an ATM. Members of Parliament are now social service providers, and they have accepted.
Because of the corruption.
They are the financiers of all problems. When somebody dies, the MP is the one to buy the coffee, and they have accepted. When somebody fails to get school fees, they say go and see the MP, and they have accepted. So when members of parliament go to reach there, they want to see how they can get this money to maintain their popularity. That's why you are seeing on this exhibition, I was shocked. Even MPs who are shown to be very straightforward and the agitators for human rights and the welfare of Uganda, on this exhibition, they are tongue-tied. There is one MP whom I wanted to give a goat because of his legislative capacity, how he has been legislating. But I'm slowly withdrawing my goat. Because on this exhibition, he has been tongue-twisted. And every morning he's attacking, for those who, I am not very good with Twitter or X person, but every time I check there, he's attacking this exhibitor. And therefore, we want to put him on notice. If something happens to Spear, we think he should be one of them. I will not mention his name because this is a national TV. But that MP is in Kampala here. He has been saying a lot of things. But on on the
On this one.
on this one, he is tongue-tied. When they ask him, he starts to stammer, and yet the man is very eloquent.
And speaks double dash in
Yeah, he starts speaking, and the majority of them are like this. And for me, I find that very, very unfair.
They are all complicit in the eating game.
Very, very unfair. That all the MPs, nobody condemns this thing now. I have not seen any who is condemning, except the party leaders who are talking about it with no effect. They have no effect, I think. Number two, I think the members of parliament have lost credibility in society. And it's unfortunate. It's just like teachers. I remember when we were growing up, when somebody introduced himself as a teacher. Oh man, that is a person who was respected, knowledgeable, and everything. And that's why I was disagreeing with you when you say that this is the most educated.
Yes.
Because these days we have ignorant teachers in class. They are ignorant, but he's deceiving people. Ill trained, there are all forms of training. I don't know which one. So you get a teacher, and the man himself is shambolic. Then the other person was MP. When an MP came, when I was a young man, I remember our MP when I was very young was, I grew up at a time when there are no MPs because I was born during Amini's time. So our MP that I understood was Victoria Sectorico. Victoria Sectorico. She's now working with NGO. She's an agriculturalist, a refined person. When she would arrive in our constituency, everybody would want to listen to her. And she was this revolutionary person. Then later they picked her and took her to serve elsewhere. And we then got Daudi Migereko. But even Daudi Migereko was not bad at the early stages because this was a teacher of economics, very nice guy. These days, as I said earlier, if somebody, if there are the people, there are three people you need to avoid. This is for me. And an MP, or generally a politician, a pastor, and a hawker. Because they share the same thing. They rely on exploiting the other party's ignorance. The hawker buys something cheaply there and then comes and doubles the price, and because of that ignorance, you buy it. Then the other one, you know what the pastors do. But the politicians are the point of discussion today. So you find that this has degenerated to an extent when recently I was in a burial, and for the first time I was very happy. I was very, very happy when they skipped the MP to speak. I thanked that master of ceremony. He reached MP, said, "You people, rain is coming. Since we have finished, let's go." And people were very happy because they knew this MP was not going to tell them anything. So let them know that very soon they may go to campaign and people will chase them with the stones. Two, I think if anybody has a hand in this, killing parliament for their own good,
as you conclude
killing parliament for their own good, then they are making a very big mistake for Uganda. And I know somebody must be targeting. Me, the first time I saw a speaker being elected, and there is a person who is glued there, who is not a member of the House, seated there, observing that election. And I asked myself, where is the separation of the power now? Because I saw a hand in the election of the speaker. So I really knew that therefore this speaker is not a people's speaker. He is an agent of a force. And you have seen what has happened. So as we thought that speakers should emerge from the House to defend the interests of Parliament. So this speaker has come up with a new method. I know previous speakers were doing this, but this one is very open. She is a clique speaker. She looks for certain MPs and gives them trips, because there was an MP who had a total emolument of trips, 2 billion shillings. And I was wondering, how many trips are these? 2 billion shillings. Because for me, I've never imagined to earn 1 billion. I don't think I will ever earn 1 billion in my life. I am not a simple person. So at the end of the day, when you have a leader at the top, and that's what I want to close up with. So for you are blaming the parliament. You are blaming the parliamentarian. But the one dirtening this water is above there. There is a person above there who is dirtening the water in the parliament. And I think that person, we have responsibility on him. Unfortunately, we have responsibility on him. So as I always say, if we have not corrected the presidency in this country, the parliament, the courts of law, just today, parliament is unlucky that the torch is on them. If you carried the same torch to the judiciary, you would be shocked. They have always carried it in police. You have seen what is there. They have carried it. So corruption is a thing that we need to really look at the top. And once we deal with the top, we shall come down to the citizen that we are now blaming here. And you know we are blaming the victim.
All right. Thank you very much, Doctor, and of course all the panelists. That brings us to the end of today's discussion. Of course, we have been discussing some of the pertinent issues in the run-up to 2026, and we'll continue to have those discussions as we go about. Make sure you share the show widely, and keep following our Citizens Chat show here on Civic Space TV. It was a pleasure hosting the show today. I remain Okot. Thank you very much.